Howdy everyone, it's me once again, the one and only Killer Rodan. And today, as you can see, I'm still continuing my Disney movie marathon, where I'll be talking about their movies, obviously, or their theme parks, merchandising, TV shows, programs, I don't know, whatever the case may be. So yeah, I'm doing a second part to this, like I said I would, folks. I'm still going to split it into more than one part, by the way, more than two parts actually. So yeah, talking about how the princess characters start off in a certain way back when, compared to like nowadays, from the the late 1930s up until the recent years, I guess you can say, and how there's some sort of evolution, which in itself doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing, okay, folks. But that doesn't necessarily mean the older films are terrible because of that. First, this is a reference to Frozen 2, which I did personally like. But you can clearly see there's a difference compared to the original films. As I often said, and I feel like I'm repeating myself here, is that just because, yes, there's an obvious difference, that doesn't necessarily mean the old original films of the princess characters are sexist. I mean, yes, I know these films were created in a certain time where women can do this or that compared to nowadays, and that's a bit of a problem here is that a lot of people nowadays are looking through these movies through a modern lens. That's problematic. They're not looking at it for what it is. They're just looking at it for what it's not. That's what I'm getting at. I mean, yes, okay, they're different, but just because they are made at a different time that limited women to do certain things, that doesn't mean the movies themselves were promoting that same kind of idea. Walt Disney himself had actually allowed women to work in the animation department, even though they were not allowed to at the time. So he was kind of breaking the law, I guess you could say. Literally, that won't mean like literally every movie that was made in the 1920s, 30s, and 40s, or even 50s, there were like hundreds of thousands of films that were made during that period of time. You mean to tell me all of them were sexist? Of course not. That's ridiculous. So it's just sounds like projection is what I'm getting at. So yes, I'm defending the old Disney movies. I like them, and I still like them. They are considered as classics for a reason, and they will remain as classics for generations to come, like they did originally. A lot of people, of course, recognize these movies as classics, and they'll remain as classics for generations. Like I said. So yeah, this it's a reason that these movies are still memorable, like Cinderella and others, of course, like Princess Aurora, Snow White. They still remember to this very day, of course, and that's fine. Nothing wrong with these movies, of course. So having that notion the old movies was sexist because of the time is in itself, like I was saying, completely ridiculous. And that's no. And here's a subject matter I'm getting really tired of bringing up. And yes, he has something to do with nostalgia. Yes, it's toxic. Yes, I know people want to look fondly on old memories they had way back when they were like kids or when they were teenagers or even maybe they were 20s. Okay. And they want to relive these memories or whatnot. So, yes, it can be toxic. And yes, you could even see people on YouTube making like tons, 20 videos, 30 videos, 40 videos. Oh, remember this, remember that as a kid, remember this, remember Nickelodeon and all that, Cartoon Network or whatever. Or even, just talking about 90s or whatever, how things came and went on trends. Not only that, it prevents personal growth when you think about it. Yeah, you overly would have an overly fondness of your past than compared to what you should be, what is going on to somebody else's future. Anything about it, which yes can be incredibly selfish. You're more worried about certain things compared to helping others when you think about it. And yes, and well, there's some quite a bit I'm skipping on, but it's just something I'm getting really sick of bringing up over and over again. But it's just weird that this kind of thing will do it makes you blind. It really does make you blind when you think about it. It prevents you from getting better. And this, of course, is in itself can be problematic, of course. So, yeah, it leads to people thinking that screaming on YouTube videos or whatever, that cartoons and movies from your childhood don't quite hold up to the mark of a good critic. And that's just terrible when you think about it. It's weird. of course. So I'm just trying to wrap this up so we can get to the other bit I'm supposed to be talking about, of course. So I do thank anybody for actually watching these videos, of course. And one more thing I'm gonna bring up is that another thing that was mentioned. Yeah, just one more thing here, folks, before I press further, is that in the influence of media and whatnot, like the people would bring up earlier in the other video. Of course, complain about this. When it comes to spirituality, they're acting as if going to church is like the absolutely positively only way to become deep and heightened, I guess you can say. Which in itself, ironically, is pretty narrow minded. You don't have to be a Christian or no religious of any kind to become a deep thinker. I'm very, of course, this kind of thing we complain. The church and pastors often complain about this anyway. Why do you think they keep complaining about Disney anyway? It's because they know that Disney has an influence. They only want the church people to have an influence and no one else, which, yes, it is in itself also is very toxic. Oh boy. So yeah, it's just odd that this kind of thing would be brought up and whatnot. Why does this need brought up? I have no idea. Yeah. Okay. I guess I have some idea, like I just said a moment ago. I guess, but it's ridiculous when you think about it. Because why this has there's no reason. I guess no real reason really for to bring it be thinking like this. You don't have to be spiritual to be deep. You can be an atheist and be deep, of course. If anything, the churches have become infamously known for blocking education. They will only recommend education if it helps them out, which of course is also pretty toxic as well when you think about it. So yeah, I just thought I'd just get this out of the way because, like I said, there's still quite a bit I have to talk about, of course, for this. And like I said earlier, I'm gonna of course cut this into more than two parts, of course. I wanted to keep this in one single video, but I realized it's gonna be way too long. So I guess without further ado, let's just try and get this part at least out the way, shall we? Ugh.
In the age of sequels, there's no such thing as a happily ever after at the end of one movie. You've got to have a second one. And
that's not necessarily true. Cinderella 2 did attempt to show what happens after that, and it still happens to be happy, I guess. Even though I honestly think it was one of the worst films ever made. We talk about a movie so bad that Cinderella 3 was trying to retcon the entire thing and not make it canon anymore. But that's kind of besides the point, because like I just said, Cinderella 2 was actually attempted to show what happens after that. Not in a bitter way, obviously. Oh, I'm just doing this on a side note, speaking of nostalgia. Can every single Mario stop trying to be like this one? We know this is a really good game, but stop trying to copy every single one that came out afterwards. I'm just, they kind of flex on here, I guess. Stop trying to copy something. I mean, really. And Walt Disney himself never really liked doing sequels to his animated movies. They'll keep doing a bunch of sequels sometime after his death, by the way.
And so this one involves Anna and Elsa again. Elsa is now...
It's pronounced Anna. How many times do I have to just say this, you illiterate fuck?
Proud queen of Arendelle. But she's having some issues. She's starting to hear some voices in her head. That
was mainly Queen Elsa that had those voices in her head. Hey, wouldn't it be a plot twist if she was schizophrenic?
I hate when that happens.
I know. It really disrupts the day.
Oh yeah, it's really disruptive during her day. Okay, what else are you going to tell me? Let me see. Oh, yeah. Water's wet. And you can find sand at the beach. That's a cat. That's a dog. Oh my god. Oh, that's a car. And that's a truck. That's a donkey. And that's cake. Ooh.
But she hears this voice, and so all of a sudden she also has this experience within the city of Arendelle, where all of a sudden these spirits, these nature spirits, sort of start taking control of the city. You know, there's fire that's becoming a problem. The fountains are going crazy. Pavement is torn up. Elsa thinks...
Fire? When was fire at the place of Arendelle? When did that ever happen? What?
That the voice and those issues are connected. She feels like she's being called north to this
You got a lot of this wrong. Okay, and the thing is that, yes, Enchanted Forest was mentioned to these two when they were younger, and then the thing is that in the film earlier on, the mother gave specifically Elsa special treatment, which it would have a payoff later on in the film, none of which you actually brought up. It was Queen Elsa with those strange voices, not her younger sister, like at all. Also, there was no crazy wildfire anywhere to be found. The grew and grew and got worse. And also, when it comes to Arendelle, things didn't really get worrisome. Especially, it was only expected towards the end of the movie. It's either I'm forgetting something, or you're just making stuff up. I mean, the film is popular enough, so you think that people would have just picked that up, or at least he assumed that nobody was going to fact check them, which in itself is pretty stupid when you think about it.
Mysterious forest that's been enshrouded in mist for who knows how long.
What are you talking about? This Enchanted Forest wasn't exactly mysterious by any means. Yes, of course, they eventually went out to study it a bit more, which makes sense because, firsthand experience, and yes, they eventually went there, and most of the film took place there, yes. But, again, this is because they were told about it when they were much younger. How did you miss that? I mean, really? What's so mysterious about it? It seems like you maybe weren't even paying attention. Oh, barely, maybe. This is dumb. What are you talking about?
She wants to find the voice. She wants to find the answers to what's plaguing Arendelle.
And what are you talking about? Christ, you missed the point of this. Yes, there was a voice counter, but that was only because the forest itself, you say, needed some help with something? Sure. But at first she was pretty resistant on going, but she told us she kind of misses the adventure.
And she feels like it has some answers to her own life and her own magical abilities, too. And Anna, being the loving sister that she is, does.
I mean, okay, Queen Elsa don't know why exactly she has these powers, but the Forest did, which yes, the film does explain. Again, it goes on with the whole mother bit I just mentioned earlier. You just glanced through a lot of detail, and I do mean quite a bit.
Doesn't want her to go alone. She wants to protect her sister, and so she insists.
Again, no, you got the roars reversed. It was Anna that was trying to protect Elsa, not the other way around.
Ongoing, and Olaf is coming along and bringing snacks.
When did he ever bring snacks? Why would he specifically bring snacks? What? When did that happen?
And magical things happen, right?
And magical things happen.
And magical stuff happen? And magical stuff happen. Again, keep glancing over a lot of stuff.
The one peculiar person out there who's never seen the first Frozen, what are Elsa's special abilities?
She can freeze things. She is the Ice Queen, literally. She has some very interesting magical abilities that she has struggled to control throughout most of her life.
There you go again, glancing over stuff. It has something to do with her anxiety. That's one thing you can talk about.
Get indications in Frozen 2 that they are growing stronger. And so she's really interested to know how this came about, and she feels like the voice has some answers for her.
And, I think the interesting thing here is that we have these two characters who in some ways embody the state of the art with where Disney is these days in terms of princesses.
Yes, the film is different compared to the other films, but that doesn't necessarily mean the older films are bad because of it.
And Elsa especially, without giving too much away.
None of you had gotten anything away. And what you did give away, you got it all wrong still even then.
By the end of Frozen 2, she's closer to a goddess than a princess.
Okay, another thing it does irritate me, besides the mispronounced name, is that Elsa was never a princess. She's a queen.
I mean, the magical stuff in play here.
And being extremely vague here. Why keep being vague? Stop being so damn vague here. Christ.
Is powerful. And we had a conversation on our team, and that's what I want to lead us into now.
Christ almighty. When it comes to feminism, you gotta fight for women's rights, sure, but you don't always have to punch things, which is one of the reasons, one of many, why I got mad at the Alice Lana remake. Besides being a remake, you didn't necessarily have to turn her into some sort of warrior, That's completely stupid. I mean, in the original film, she has her own, smarts, own brain and she never threw a punch. And then you could even use a kaiju genre like the original Godzilla film. Gojira. In that film, you have the character of Emiko. And, she has her own morals, and she never hit anybody, really. Or you could even go to the Sandman comics. And that's a fantasy type of thing. And those really popular characters, kind of goth-like Death. And, yeah, she has her own strong moral code. And she doesn't exactly going around doing kung fu stuff or anything like that, like at all, because she doesn't have to. My point being is that it's kind of never meant to think that feminism should be expressed in only one specific way. So, yeah. Okay, I bring up Cinderella again. She was horribly mistreated. I mean, really mistreated, but she remained kind anyway. She didn't exactly become Jason Voorhees and start hacking up everybody. So that should be an indication of something right there.
About just the evolution of Disney princesses, since the 1950s.
But she's not a princess, though. She was never a princess. She's a queen. I said that earlier.
This has been a thing for quite a while now.
Again, just because the older movies are different from the newer stuff, it doesn't mean the older movies are sexist.
And so let me start here with this part of the conversation. There are lots of fictional characters out there in our culture today, but Disney princesses as a group seem to exhibit a certain kind of appeal.
Yeah, but that in itself doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing, really.
For young girls, why do you think these characters have had such a lasting appeal in our culture?
Okay.
Oh, Christ, I saw this coming. In other words, little girls were manipulated into thinking be a certain way. It's a lot of shit. A lot of churches are known to be horribly sexist towards women, and that's a fact. You don't talk about that at all. Okay, these are sexist. Again, that's a lie. It just seems like you're picking and choosing what you talk about.
Well, speaking as a woman, as a young girl, getting to see these.
Oh, of course you're gonna have her talk. That seems manipulative. Because if I criticize them, which I am, I'm gonna be sexist because of that.
Princesses come to life in all their different habitats and environments and everything's so different. You just kind of are drawn into this magical world where.
Yeah, what's wrong with that? And again, they're princesses, which means they have a sort of part of the government, which means they have an influence. And Princess Leia was technically a princess, and she did things. So yeah, about that, you don't mention that.
Where you want to be that person, and I don't.
And yes, then we just got to covering this literally just a moment ago. There's nothing wrong with that.
I don't really think that's changed much over time.
So you don't want him to be relatable? I don't understand you. I'm confused. This entire thing is confusing.
Who didn't want to be Ariel, swimming through the water, or Pocahontas running through the forest?
I didn't.
I did these things as a kid. We won't talk about them.
Well, yeah, and I mean, in a way, they were like superheroes for little girls.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. This entire thing is really moronic. It doesn't have to be just for little girls, It can be for little boys, too. Don't you think, it's just for little girls, is a bit stereotyping?
Sure. Little girls, because I remember my girls when they were young.
And you have two daughters, Bob?
Yes, yeah, who are now not little princesses anymore, but they're queens now. But when they were,
that's not how quite it works, really, at all. Oh boy.
For a little, they wanted the dresses or something similar. They wanted to wear the little shoes, the fancy high heels. They wanted to pretend to be, as you were saying, these really.
I don't know if you noticed this, but there's this thing called merchandising, and this is capitalism. So fill in the details right there. Okay, so what? Whoop-de-doo. And they're still doing that to this very day. So what?
Heroic girls that they could look up to.
Yeah, and it's interesting. When I go to Disneyland or Disney World, these are huge things. These princesses, you see these little girls.
Again, so what? They're known for these kinds of characters, so it makes sense for that to occur. Well, so what?
Running around in these dresses, and they have the bibbidi-bobbidi boutiques at Disneyland and
That's
Disney
hard to
World,
say.
where you can actually sit down and become the princess of your dreams if you pay so much money.
Mm-hmm.
There's still this lasting appeal to these princesses, old and.
Yeah, that's because they're good characters with good storylines and whatnot. So what?
New ones.
Jonathan?
Man, you guys are spot on when you talk about role models, because I mean, really, that's what it comes down to. Is you think of this. I mean, my daughters when they were young, man, I tell you, it was Ariel, it was Belle. I mean, for Halloween costumes, that's what they wanted. And it's funny, as parents, we're always kind of predicting, well, what are good role models? What are, and, you think, well, Belle, she's got her nose poked in a book and she's got a father whose sanity is so-so. Hey, it sounds like my daughter. But, but I think the thing that was tough.
Christ, you sound old when you described it like that. And I thought I was ancient. I'm over 100 years old. Heaven almighty.
For me, when I saw Frozen, my wife and I saw it in the theater, and it wasn't so much. It's just that I think we're starting to get a lot of post-truth thinking. And you think about this, post-truth was word of the year from Oxford Dictionary 2016.
Post-truth thinking. This has to be one of the dumbest conversations I've ever heard. This entire thing's so moronic.
And here we've got a song where Elsa sings, it's time to see what I can do to test the limits and break through.
Yeah, but the idea here was not to say, oh, I'm a better person than a princess. That's not the idea here. Got that wrong again.
No right, no wrong, no rules for me.
By the way, that song was actually from the first movie. That's not in the second movie. So again, you got it wrong.
Free, let it go. And man, we hear little 3-year-olds and 5-year-olds singing this song. And man, as parents, I just tell you, in a world full of these subtle messages, it's not like we got to boycott Disney or...
Again, you missed the point of the song. Elsa was speaking her true self. It was not to take jabs at the princesses whatsoever.
Or ban these films, but in a world full of these subtle lies, we need to be having dialogue.
What lying are you talking about? What lies? I know you're trying to take a jab to the older princess movies, but they weren't lying.
About explicit truth.
So that's one of the really interesting things that I think about Frozen, is because you're absolutely right about the song, Jonathan. One of the problems with that song is that it's so good. People can't help singing it, but it's essentially...
It's catchy.
It's a song of the villain, and at that moment...
Frozen 2 didn't have a villain. I mean, yeah, the first one did, but that's only because they were trying to change it up a little bit. So, okay, so what? That doesn't not mean they were trying to make mockery of the older films. They were just trying to change up a little bit, which they ultimately did. So what? Christ almighty. Everything about what they're saying is wrong. Wrong. Literally everything what they're saying is wrong. Christ almighty, this is dumb.
Elsa is becoming, she's excluding herself from all the people who love her, all the people who can help her.
No. In the first film, she was rejected because it was discovered that she had these powers. So, of course, the people over there in Arendelle didn't want to deal with her. It just seems like you're just projecting stuff into the film that's not there.
She moves into this ice palace, literally.
Again, no. She made that castle. So oh Christ, you keep getting a lot of stuff wrong. Again.
When you're talking about sort of this post-truth type of thing,
Again, with that word, post-truth. Christ, you're trying to make yourself sound smaller than what you really are with that. This is a dumb conversation.
I totally agree with you on the song, but the messages for Frozen, I think, were much more positive and empowering. Whereas,
again, what are you talking about? All the princess characters are part of the government. How is that in itself not empowering? What?
Really talking about this sisterly love and the hope that brings, and I thought that it was in some ways the heart of the movie, aside from the song, was really redemptive.
I think the question, though, is what do kids walk away getting? Because I remember working with, gang kids back in the 90s, and they loved the movie Boys in the Hood, and they loved some of this stuff. And it was funny, even though the messages...
Christ, now you're talking to make you sound really relatable. Not talking about some gang kids. Okay. So cringe.
Of a lot of these films were, gangs don't really pay off. You're going to end up dying at age 23. Kids didn't get that. They were like, did you see the way he was holding that gun? Did you see?
Man, that's lying. If crime didn't pay, then why is there big criminal organizations to begin with? And then there wouldn't be that much crime to begin with, like I was saying. So if you didn't pay off, so what you just said there makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Now we're just talking about some whole other thing, something that's completely different from the topic at hand. It's not consistent. Nothing here is very consistent at all.
You know, it's funny. So sometimes, you know, we hear kids singing the song sung by the villain, as you're saying. This is the song they remember, you know, and that message of do what feels right at the moment comes through strong.
And, you know, in my opinion, it's not just Disney that's evolving in this new way with the princesses. I mean, it's the way women, period.
Again, the old princess movies aren't sexist. And the whole industry changed when you think about it. So what?
Are being depicted across the board. You see more and more and more films where...
And you're wrong. In Kung Fu films during the 1960s, 70s, saw women being strong. Even the noir films saw women as strong.
Women, they're not womanly in the old school definition. They're warrior princesses.
What are you talking about? And there's even been a lot of fantasy movies that had strong women, and they were womanly as well. You did not do no research at all.
They all have to be, if you've got a female hero in a film, she's got to be able to go out and kick backside just as much.
Oh my God. You can say ass. You sound old as shit. I'm old. I'm over 100 years old, like I mentioned earlier.
Much as the guy does, you know?
So to be fair, as a kid, I was...
None of you were being fair, like at all. This is a terrible podcast. It's awful. Christ, man.
not one of the girls that wanted to dress up. I hated dresses. My mom had to force me into them.
Ugh. Oh, okay. You're gonna be one of those people. All right. But honestly, I don't care. So what? What does that have to do with the topic at hand here? Let me guess. You're not like any other girl, right? Is that what it is? Yeah, I bet that's what it is.
Them.
I can just picture that in my mind. You
Yeah,
squirming
I was all about climbing the trees and doing what the boys did because I was one of.
Yep. Caught it. Yep, I caught it. Gonna be playing like the boys and do what they do and play basketball and whatnot. And all that jazz. Let's why I sold in the mud. Yada. Basically a tomboy, right? Again, okay. So what? Whoop-de-doo.
7 and all the boys there were only boys in the neighborhood, so I had to like prove that I could climb the trees and play all the sports and do all that stuff to be included. And so
That's awesome.
I think I really love the new depiction of female.
So you couldn't relate to the old Disney princess films because of your environment in which you grew up with. Therefore, the old princess movies are bad. What the hell are you talking about? How is it that the fault of the original films? That's not their fault that you grew up in that kind of environment. So what? Seems like you're just nitpicking them. They're still good movies. I'm sticking by it too. Whoop-de-doo.
female characters, especially in this like princess world, because
Again, so what? God doesn't make the old movies bad just because of that experience that you had. So what?
I mean, it's not unromantic to want someone to love you and rescue you, because I think you can still want those things. But to say, hey, I can handle
You
this.
don't necessarily need to be a princess or have Prince Charming rescue you to have that. Again, that just seems like a way to take stabs at it.
And I'm fully capable, and I don't need you to do all of this.
And these movies, the old princess movies like Cinderella, they're not trying to take stab at you for doing that. What does that got to do with the movie? Again, you're just projecting that there. Okay, you had that environment. Again, so what? What does that got to do with the movie?
This stuff we can partner together and do that is really exciting.
Well, I see.
Oh, Christ, the whole bit of the dancer in distress. The old princess movies aren't doing that. At all. None of them.
agree.
Yeah.
But see, what we're seeing in our culture is that the pendulum is swung so far to one side.
Princess Leia had some help with men, and she didn't seem to mind it. That wasn't brought up. Why wasn't that brought up? Come on.
That there isn't that balance that you were talking about.
Yeah. I think
Again, I bring up Cinderella. She was mistreated by women. She was never once mistreated by a guy. Funny how that wasn't brought up. Again, Star Wars. Star Wars had Princess Leia, and she had helped men, and men helped her, and she didn't mind.
The problem can be that we make vulnerability a bad thing. Like, if you're vulnerable or if you're going, it's like looked at as a weakness, where really vulnerability is a strength. And so we've kind of switched that role.
Okay, the old Republic, the New Republic, the Resistance, and just to name three of them. In Star Wars, they had men and women working together.
I mean, you think back to one of the earliest Disney princesses, Snow White.
Yeah.
Everybody looks at her and says, "Oh, but she's so passé. She always has to be."
Again, no, the original Snow White and Seven Dwarfs, Snow White was supposed to be purely good. A character that was purely good was popular in fantasy.
Rescued by everyone. She's woken up
Dressed
by
by
the prince.
birds.
What are you talking about? You just oversimplify it again just to fit into your narrative, which is a lot of shit, but you're lying again.
All that
Oh, wait,
sort of
that was
thing.
Cinderella.
Yeah. I mean,
All of them.
But the
all
thing
runs
is,
together.
the thing is, when you think about Snow White,
Yeah, Snow White was always a pure-hearted good character. She never assumed evil in everybody. She doesn't have to be like the other princesses. She's her own.
it was her very nature that
They're not all the same. 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 She's supposed to be extremely sweet. So what? That's fine.
actually transformed everything around her.
Yeah.
All
yeah.
the little dwarf characters that came in.
What are you talking about? Again, Snow White saw the good in everyone. She never assumed anything bad. What are you talking about?
To sort of supposedly rescue.
Little
Yeah.
people.
What? When did she ever rescue anybody? She doesn't have to punch people to prove her feminism in her own way. What are you talking about?
They were truly transformed by just the person that she was.
Yeah.
And so what if that was the case? They saw good in her. Maybe not at first, but they saw good in her. So what? What's the complaint here? I don't get it.
Yeah, I think the beautiful thing about each of these characters is instead of having one character across the board and all the princesses look.
Again, what are you talking about? All these characters, literally every single one of them, have their own personality. So, again, you tell them act as if they do, which they don't. This entire argument's so bad. This entire podcast is bad, and this has gone much longer than it should have. I'm trying to wrap it up, folks, because like I said earlier, folks, I'm going to have to do more than 2 videos for this. Because it feels dragged out. This entire thing feels dragged out. There's no real point to any of this. This is really dumb. But yeah, I mean, yes, there's some of these princess movies I like some more than others. Sure, there's that. But so what? Whoop-de-doo, some are better than others, but so what? Christ.
Look the same is that you can find a little bit of yourself or your best friend.
Yeah, that's the point. It could be your mother, it could be somebody you love, or whatever. Your friend, your ex, whatever. That's what I mean by relatable. Okay. Let's just say in a hypothetical situation where the Japanese had won the World War II, which seems unlikely, but you can still argue that the Nazis were still lost, of course. There's so much stuff you can actually bet around that alone. And you can actually use the whole princess thing as a setting for that as well. You could do like a 3-way fight, I guess, kind of a thing, and have like a Cold War thing going on. You have to iron out a lot of details, obviously, but it seems like an interesting thing and stuff, remaking a lot of these movies.
In every single one of them. And so there's not just one person
Ah, you're still wrong, lady. You're still wrong. You're still wrong, and you're still wrong. Christ. What the hell, man? I mean, really.
princess that fits the mold, but there are so many, and it gives such a broad perspective to girls everywhere.
And they're all strong. I think
Yeah.
that when you look at the
Oh my god, I'm so done with this dumbassery. And by the way, folks, the Japanese would have, had more of a chance if they weren't so overly confident, by the way. Anyway.
when you look at the sort of the whole gamut of Disney princesses, you can find strength, as you were saying.
Again, and again, and again, nothing's being explained. Literally nothing's been explained here. Like at all. Whatsoever.
Bob, in each one of them, but they're different types of strength. And I think
Right.
that's
Alright, folks, that'll be it for now. Again, I'm going to do a third part for this video later when I have the chance. I'm just trying to do these as fast as I can because next month I'm going to be doing something else really on this, the 27th. Oh boy, time's a ticking. Yeah, yeah, the 28th, yeah, something like that. Point being is that this month is almost over. So yeah, time is ticking, and so I'm better hurry up with these videos, of course. And so yeah, kind of pressed to finish this video series up, so I can just move on to something else, I guess. But yeah, I'm just gonna do a third part, a fourth part if I have to. If I do a fourth one, I just do that one incredibly short, I guess. But for the obvious reason, like I just said a moment ago. But anyway, again, like I know I've said this multiple times already. Yes, the old Disney princess films are different compared to now, but that in itself doesn't mean that they're sexist. Yes, they were released during a certain period of time in cinema, sure, but that's not enough evidence to support what they're saying. Funny how they didn't bring up any other studio. Not at all. They didn't bring up no other studio whatsoever, just this one. Which tells me that they haven't done none of the studies, like at all. They have not done the research. And yes, there have been strong female characters even back then. But I brought up the whole film noir detective movies. The detective movies, the film noir movies, they're littered with strong female characters. Ever heard of Femme Fatales? Yeah, that was a term coined because of that genre. And again, there's been strong female characters in science fiction, fantasy, action, just to name a few. Like we were saying earlier, and just now. But yeah, folks, let me just wrap things up. This is so damn dumb. It's just really stupid. Okay, I appreciate anybody for watching. I know this has been a really lengthy video, so I really appreciate anybody for having a look. So yeah, I'm going to just try to wrap things up. Of course, when it comes to this video series. All right, yada yada yada. Thanks for watching, and take care. Until next time, I guess. Whatever. This is dumb.